possible. Okay, that's it for the time presentation, and I'm open to questions, Francisco.
All right. Thank you, Tommy. I'll give you 2 seconds to send me $1,000 then.
Yeah.
You said 2 seconds. Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions here in the room or in Newark? All right. CK, you have a question?
Hi. Hello. I enjoyed your talk on El Salvador, and as you were talking about Bitcoins, I was wondering whether the government will lose the power if the Bitcoins are used, because they will not be printing currency, or will they? And then, what will be the value of the Bitcoin vis-a-vis the printed currency?
The question is about risk, Tommy. Political risk and vis-a-vis the weight of the Bitcoin investment. Okay. Yeah, against printed currency, right? So it's a matter of risk and equivalence, if you wish, the question.
Okay. Very interesting question. Thank you. So the currency in El Salvador is US dollars. Okay. And just last year, they also made Bitcoin legal tender. Okay. So actually, El Salvador doesn't print any money. Okay. They can't. So just as they can print money, they can't print Bitcoin. Okay. That's one of the most interesting things. Okay. And that's what I was saying, that it's funny, because the situation that's going on right now on the US regarding inflation, it's because the Fed actually printed a lot of money during the pandemic. Okay. And now they're trying to fix the impacts on those actions. But I want to take your question to also say something. Okay. El Salvador has a position on Bitcoin. Okay. And sometimes on the news, they say, well, El Salvador is going on default because, Bitcoin has lost 60% of its value. Okay. So I'm going with numbers. Okay. If El Salvador, okay, loses everything, that the position that they have on Bitcoin, okay, it would lose something between $50 and $100 million. Okay. Have any of you seen a country go on default by losing $100 million? Okay. And the answer is going to be no. I said the size of the economy was $28 billion. Okay. So that's roughly 0.2%. Okay. So even if the Bitcoin value goes to zero, okay, it can happen. I mean, this is something that nobody controls. Okay. But even if it goes to zero, okay, then the country is not going to collapse. Okay. So regarding your question, El Salvador cannot print money and cannot print Bitcoin.
All right, we're short on time. CK, a question? Thank you.
Really appreciated how you went through the narrative and unbanked. And I just want to get your opinion on who you think, developed world versus developing worlds, will most benefit from this worldwide currency, be it Bitcoin, Ether, and all the rest.
Great question. I would say the countries that are on their path to develop. I mean, because it's easier, it's faster, and you just need, basically you need a phone. Okay. The number of smartphones that are in El Salvador, it's like almost 2 to 1. Okay. It's something that is absurd. Okay. It's like they have like a 4 million size on the population that it's over 18, and they have like 7 million registered cell phones. Okay, and again, this is one of the poorest countries and the smallest countries in Latin America. So I would say for sure the undeveloped countries are going to benefit more. And again, it's easier, it's faster, and it doesn't have to be everything, you know, related to crypto. I mean, people can have those digital wallets and eventually make integrations with other crypto assets, but for sure the undeveloped countries.
All right, thank you, Tommy. Un abrazo.
There is a question in Newark as well.
One more question. I'm sorry, we're kind of out of time. Is it short?
Yeah.
It's in
No,
Newark.
no, I think we're out of time. Thank you, Francisco.
All right.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
We've reached almost the end of our day. We have our keynote speaker now. I was lucky enough to meet Angelia Mcfarland, our afternoon keynote speaker, through the kind introduction of one of our marketing advisory board members, Joe Frick, who is here with us today. So thank you, Joe. The minute I spoke with her, I knew that she would be an amazing keynote speaker for us today. Not only does she have the experience and the expertise, but Angelia is possibly one of the kindest, most generous people I've ever met. She really wants to share her passion for ideation, innovation, and really about where technology meets marketing. And she's going to share that today, looking forward. So taking lessons from all these amazing tools we've learned about today and talking about future forward and what that means for us as marketers. Before I turn it over, Angelia, I just want to brag about you for a second. You helped introduce cutting edge products and programs into new markets for leading technology brands, including IBM, Dell Technologies, and Vertiv. You've been an advocate for the future of work over 2 decades, blending excellence in corporate organization with success as a serial entrepreneur and small business owner. Angelia is currently Director of Product Marketing, Programs, and Operations at Dell Technology, where she leads a team of marketing and operations professionals with responsibility for messaging, product launch, digital, events, social, PR, AR, analytics, and budget management. Please join me in giving a really warm RBS welcome to Angelia Mcfarland.
I am so very excited to be here. I have been waiting all summer to, this has been, I started on this speaking engagement thing about 2 years ago. And so I've done a few over the last 2 years, but this by far is the highlight for me. So I'm really excited to be here with all of you. This has been a wonderful day. It's been very exciting. I have enjoyed it tremendously. And I was talking to Dr. Scott earlier this morning, and I was telling her why this was so exciting to me is we have spent a whole day talking about technology at a marketing conference. That says something, right? That says that we are now moving into an era where us as marketers are dealing with technologies and things that typically require highly specialized skills. And we're making decisions on those things. And so our profession, our technology is undergoing a radical evolution. For me, I love it because I've been in tech most of my career, even though I've been on the marketing side. So to watch this evolution is exciting to me. But I also think that you, particularly as students here at Rutgers, having this level of education and opportunity are going to be very, very well positioned as you move out into the world. And Lizette is one example. And then there was another alumni earlier today, I don't remember his name, who's another example. So awesome. The other thing I want to tell you is I usually try to speak without a confidence monitor, but as everyone spoke today, I was like, oh, I was going to say that. It's like, shoot, I was going to say that. And so as people started talking, I was like in real time, agile marketing. How many have had agile marketing on their classes? In real time, I was like, okay, I need to modify some of my speaking notes. So So I had to do a few modifications. So I want to tell you, Alexandra told you a lot about me. But I want to tell you a little bit about, in my career, I've been in tech marketing. I don't want to tell my age, but I will, about 30 years. And I have watched it change. So when I started, we didn't have PDFs. First of all, we didn't have anything. We had printing presses. We would write stuff and we would send it to printers. So that was just 30 years ago, y'all. We would write stuff and send it to printers, and they would produce it. And so I watched as mainframes came online and we started doing things on mainframes. I watched as client server came online. We started doing things on PCs. And then I watched this whole internet thing. That's why this is so very exciting to me, because I saw how the internet started and came to where it is. And now we're at the beginning of it again. And so one of the things, or two of the things that people hinted to, but they didn't talk about a lot, that before I talk about future forward, I want to hit, is one of the things that has enabled all of these things that you see is, and you can see my marketing, I'm gonna say radical. You know, y'all marketers like to use these big words that don't mean anything. Radical changes in computing technology. And so working at Dell and IBM, I've seen us go from the ability to create a paper on a PC that was almost as big as the seat of this chair, to being able to do things on a watch on your hand. And so as the components get smaller and smaller and more powerful, it enables the things that you've been seeing and talking about today. They just weren't possible years ago because we didn't have that level of computing technology. The other thing that people have hinted to today, but we didn't get deep into, is data. And it's one of the subjects that Joe and I have exchanged ideas on previously. We went from an era where we didn't have any data to now we have this flood of data on people. And I have thoughts on data, and we'll talk about them a little bit today. So, future forward. The future, and I'm going to tell you in a minute what I mean by future forward. Okay, you guys, where's the box? What am I pointing at? Back there? Oh. Sorry. The future is distributed. And so my fancy little animation that I'm getting ready to play, that I was able to do on my PC, you know I'm not a designer, but the words are not important, right? So you're not even gonna be able to read them. I purposely made them to go really, really fast. My point here is that there are a lot of definitions. And because the metaverse is technically a universe, they're all acceptable. All of these definitions are acceptable definitions. I hear a lot of people say, well, there's really no definition of the metaverse. There are hundreds, and they're all okay, right? And I think because none of us feel like experts, we're not willing to make our definition the definition for whatever it is we're doing right now. So if someone was to ask you, what's your definition of the universe? What would you say? Somebody just shout something out. What would you say if somebody said the current physical universe? What's your definition? Oh, right, completely different definitions. Would you say that they were both accurate? Yes. Would you say that they both had different perspectives? They're both in different places at this time, and what's important to them is different. And so don't be afraid to boldly say, this is my definition of the metaverse. This is my definition for Web3, because someone else may have a different definition from you, and that's okay. And I'll give you an example, and thank my beautiful cousin here. She's gonna kill me because she hates to be called out. But for coming to hear me speak. She and I banter all the time about everything. And one of our latest banters was whether VR is going to be a thing. I'm like, VR is not going to be a thing except in gaming. She's like, yes, it is. I'm like, no, it's not. It's all AR, right? AR is going to be the thing. And so as the Mattel presentation, I don't know if you guys saw us, but as the Mattel presentation went and the nail biter presentation went, we're both razzing each other, right? So when she would see VR, she'd be like, okay, VR is going to be the thing. And then when the AR would come up, I go, no, it's going to be the AR thing. I told you it's going to be AR. The benefit of being bold and having the conversation is that it refines and both people grow. So, and as marketers, we have to be on that edge because that's what we do. The other piece about the definitions that you heard today is that most of them were provided by technologists. I have worked with a technologist or two. And there's one thing about them, they are exceptionally brilliant people. I have a tremendous amount of respect for them. I don't know if there's a class in engineering school that tells them that marketing people don't know anything, or if that's just what how engineers are. But I had to learn the technology to be able to understand what they were saying well enough to translate it into regular language. And so I created this term called undistilled brilliance, right? Because I respect them. I can't create a server. I can't write software. I have a tremendous amount of respect for what they do. What they can't do is they can't explain to me why it's important until I use it or until I figure out how to use it, because usually it's new technology and I have to figure out how to use it. And so the benefit of us as marketers and the benefit of these conversations today are that we bring to the table the ability to start understanding what the technologists are saying so that we can then take that information and put it into a definition that other people understand. So in doing that, in putting things into technical things into a context that other people understand, I have found the easiest way is through stories. So I'm going to tell you a couple stories about my 4 favorite metaverse use cases. You've heard a little bit about some of them today. So the first one is patient-controlled medical records. Industry conversation, that's not even technical, but it's real industry, right? If you go to somebody who's at a doctor's office and you say, hey, I'm gonna sell you patient-controlled medical records, right? They're gonna say, what is that? But if you go to them and you say, hey, Mr. Smith, did you have to order your records from this particular doctor to send them to that particular doctor over there? And you let Mr. Smith talk to you, right? I sure did. And this is what happened. And they were incorrect. And I only had half of my records. And then the insurance company said that's not what I needed. Wouldn't it be great, Mr. Smith, if none of those people had your records? If you had them, if you had a set of digital records that you could easily access, you could give them access to whichever record they asked for from your smartphone. Mr. Smith would say, yeah, give me that application right now, right? Give me that capability on my phone right now. We just talked about blockchain. We talked about distributed storage. We talked about, from an industry perspective, bringing together all the payers and the providers and all of the people in that industry and getting them to integrate all their systems so that they could accept that. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff in a story that a patient could understand. That's some of the magic of marketing. I'm gonna say magic a couple times because I think we're all magic in here. We do magic. There are a few other industries, just a few, who are magical, but we're very magical. The other one, which is one of my favorite, and this is a marketing one, right? I call it consumer-led advertising. And every marketing person that I talk to about this, they think I'm just like completely crazy. But I'm gonna keep being crazy, right? Future forward. I'm gonna be as crazy as I possibly can until we get close. We may not get all the way there, but we're gonna get close. And to me, consumer-led advertising is about, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm talking so fast, I can barely breathe. And I had knee surgery. Alexandra was like, do you need a chair? Do you need a chair? I don't want to sit down because I'm so excited about this conversation. But consumer-led advertising, today, we push advertising on people. It's intrusive. A lot of times it's ineffective. We don't get it when we need it. And so we now have the tools. And there's this other paradigm that people have. People think people don't like commercials, right? I love commercials. I just like them when I want them. How many people enjoy commercials, but they only want to see them when they want to see them? We now have the technology to not only push commercials to people when they want to see them, we have the ability to help to allow them to share their data with us so that we push the right commercials when they give us the time. I call it awareness versus attention. Today, there's a lot of solutions I'm aware of because they do a really great job of making me laugh or making me cry, but it's not at a time or place that I'm ready to consume the information. So I know about Geico. Geico has the funniest commercials out there, right? So I'm aware of them, but I almost never pay attention to them because I'm not in a space to want to pay attention when they serve them up to me. Wouldn't it be so much more financially efficient for brands and for advertisers to hit you with their message when you want to see it and at the depth with you want to see it? Because initially when you think about this, you're like, oh, advertisers will never go for that because there's, the impressions will go down. Impressions going down is a great thing because what percentage of those impressions actually reach your audience? It's a whole thought behind mass market, right? We want to hit as many people as possible so we can get to 2 or 3% of the people that we want. What if you could refine it and get the 2 or 3% of the people that you want and get some quality time with them to not just get their attention, but to explain to them what you offer? We now have the technologies to make that happen. Future of work, as Alexandra talked about in my introduction, has been my favorite one. And I use future of work because that's what everyone else calls it. I don't think it's going to be future of work. And I think CK alluded to this earlier this morning when she did her presentation. I believe it's going to be future of career. And we are going to be responsible for our careers, and our careers won't be tied to one specific employer. How many of you have a side gig? Quite a few people raised their hand. What if your side gig was not a side gig? It was just who you are, right? I work here and here and here and here. And these two are mine. These two, I'm partnering with somebody else. And oh, by the way, I'm looking for another one, right? And your career is no longer going to be based on someone just giving you a job. To me, the important tool, you heard them talking about blockchain earlier. The important tool here is blockchain, because blockchain, a lot of corporations are worried about intellectual property, right? If I can leverage the blockchain to segment the work that I do for one person from the work that I do for another person, and the ownership of those ideas and the royalties align with those ideas, it makes future of career a possibility. And then the last one, I'm calling it next generation digital interaction. And I will say that I think MetaMask, everybody know about MetaMask? MetaMask calls itself a wallet. It is so much more than a wallet. It is basically, and I'm gonna be bold here, right? Argue with me if you want. It is basically the next browser. It is a Web3 browser. You can access your applications on there. It validates your financial transactions. It is what the browser will be when the browser grows up. And the other piece about MetaMask and that type of technology that I find interesting, that I think it's going to require us to help people get their heads around, is what if we all had our own currencies? What if everybody had their own digital currency? I have Angelia currency. And then I go to Monique and I say, Monique, you're a visual artist. Can you do me a picture? She's like, yes, but I only trade in Monique currency. What's the exchange rate between Monique currency and Angelia currency? All of our currencies will be on some sort of exchange. They'll all have values. Pull out my MetaMask wallet. She'll say, oh, it's 2 to 1. And I look at my wallet and I'm like, well, I have enough Angelia currency to make that, right? To make that transaction. I was like, all right, I got you, I'll pay you. Done. Again, 10, 15, I don't know, 20 years out. Not today, but if we don't entertain as marketers, the magicians of the world, if we don't entertain the things that don't exist today, we won't get there. And I have to tell you, I'm a product marketer. So, you know, product marketers are all about, you all go to school here, so you know what they're about. But I would say, from my perspective, I think that this hacking up that the industry has done of our discipline is some of what has caused other people to be more disrespectful, right? Because when you say marketing, they now have 10 different things in their head. She writes brochures. I'm like, no, I'm a product marketer. Writing brochures is one of the things that I do, right? But there are a whole bunch of other things that I have to do to be able to create that brochure. She does websites, right? I'm a digital marketer. And they're like, oh, you just do websites. Well, yes, I can create a website for you, but there's a whole bunch of other things I need to do to figure out what to put on that website to make sure it is effective, right? And I think that breaking our titles up, which I don't think was any one person, right? It was just a kind of an industry thing. It just kind of happened. But I think that leads to some of the technical folks feeling like, you know, they can put us in boxes and that we don't necessarily know what it is they do. But I would say, so these are 4 of my favorite use cases that I love to talk about all the time. And why I think they're important is because I think as marketers, we should all have 1 or 2 of these in our back pocket. Anytime anybody comes to us and says, and we have a conversation, we should have 1 or 2 use cases in our back pocket to just riff off of and start talking about. And each time we talk, by the way, when I first started talking about these 4, I didn't talk about them the way I talked about them today. If you don't riff off of them, if you don't, you know, use other people to help you define and refine them, you will never get there. And the Metaverse, Web3, whatever title you want to give it, it will get to where it's going to get when we make it real for everyone else. The technologists won't do it. The artists are getting close, but artists are a very insular community, right? Like, you know, they're kind of like technologists in that they're like they push people who aren't artists out of their circle. I know, don't punch me, Mo. They push people who aren't artists out of their circle, but within their community, they're starting to do it. I think globally, it's going to take marketers to make that happen. So I just want to hit a few things that I think we can do to be future forward. I talked about future forward earlier, so I told you I would define what I meant by it. This is my definition. You can have your own definition, and that's okay. We talked about definitions earlier. My definition of future forward, and I'll tell you that by telling you what it's not. We tend to do things that are historically consistent. This is what we did. We launched a product last week. We created 4 brochures. We did a webinar, and then we pulled out the CEO, and we tried him in front of a bunch of customers, and we sold X amount of dollars of stuff. Let's do that again. That's historically consistent. I think as marketers, we have to have a foot in both worlds, right? Because we gotta operate the business today. But we should always be pushing the bar to be future forward. Okay, we did that last time and it worked. What else do we need to consider? When do we need to consider it? And always be looking to the future to make these things happen. The other thing is get comfortable with risk. Giving someone your own definition of what the metaverse is puts you on Front Street to be disagreed with, right? Someone's going to disagree with you, right? That's okay. Get comfortable with that risk. Going out and telling your boss that you want to do your next meeting in VR, right, is risky. The boss is going to ask you how much is it going to cost? You know, does this make any sense? Is this just a game, right? It's gonna create risk. But how do you deal with risk? You identify it, you measure it, and then you decide whether it's worth it. So get comfortable with risk. And then lastly, the metaverse, in my opinion, and you can fight me on it if you want, the metaverse is waiting for us. The technologies are there. It needs the magic in this room and in New Brunswick and on the Zoom call to make it real for the people who doesn't make any sense to. And so I'll end by and you can read this one if you like. I'll end by showing you my definition of the metaverse. And I'll talk a little bit. There was a comment earlier today. I can't remember his name. I thought I wrote it down. But a gentleman said to make sure that you were building a brand, building an online brand. This was something that I did, I believe it was in March when this conversation was going around. And I said, I don't like any of these definitions of the metaverse. I'm gonna write my own. Wrote my own, put it on LinkedIn. I would love for LinkedIn, another idea. I would love for LinkedIn to come out with a blockchain service, because right now, if you go to LinkedIn, you'll see this, you'll see that I put it out there, right? But it's not on a chain that says the date, the time, you know, who put it out. If somebody else grabbed it and made some modifications to it, that doesn't exist yet. But putting it out there is just the first step. And the thing that I want you to notice is that my goal in writing this definition was a human-centric, and there's a gentleman named, Gatherverse, Christopher, I can't think of his last name. He talks about the human-centered metaverse. And my goal here was, you notice the technologies are all at the bottom. The technologies enable the metaverse. The technologies, my opinion, we can fight if you want to. The technologies enable the metaverse. The metaverse is about the people. Thank you.
We have time for a few questions, if there's any questions for Angelia. Okay, we have a question over here.
Hello, first of all, thank you so much for your presentation. It was very enjoyable and I found myself just smiling along to so many components and so many things that you said. So I have a general question. As technology evolves, as kind of technology just grows and more people have more access to different forms of viewing platforms, such as like TikTok, how do you think the change in attention span and the lowering of attention span of apps such as like TikTok and stuff is affecting how we market to certain audiences or certain generations?
Oh, wow, that's a really, really good question. I was thinking the other day how, as humans in this era, we've learned to filter, right? You know, when you're looking at TikTok, you just filter, and you can scroll through 50 videos, and then boom, that's the one I want. We've learned how to filter. That is one. I'll be honest with you. I think it's a very important one. That's not necessarily my area of marketing. I don't have an opinion on it, but I see it as a problem. And I think to your point, it is definitely a problem in social, but because we've learned that filtering, it's a problem in everything.
Right, because you mentioned, I think earlier it was, I want to see commercials. I like the idea of commercials, but at my convenience when I want to. And my mind immediately went to the Super Bowl. Because
Yes.
everyone loves to see those commercials. Everyone likes to meme out of them. And I think it's something that's really powerful, which is why it sells for so much. So I guess kind of tying into that point, I guess TikTok is everywhere. I mean, it's all self-adapting and everyone jokes about the algorithm. So I kind of just wanted to pose that question. See how
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And that's not one of my use cases, but I might add it. I'm gonna start work. See, that's how it works, you guys. So now that's a use case that I'll begin to think about. And the next time I see you, I will have an answer.
I look forward to it.
Any other questions? Are there any questions in New Brunswick? No? Okay.
Thank you all so much for having me. This was really the highlight of my year. Thank you, Alexandra, Joe.
Thank you. Okay, Angelia, thank you. I think we're ending the day on a high note. It's been extremely educational. We've learned so much about the metaverse, how to define it, all the tools and tech. So we're ready to go out there and enter the metaverse. A big thank you to all of you attending here in person in Newark, to those in New Brunswick, thank you. Those joining in online, thank you. And again, a huge thank you to all our speakers, panelists, faculty moderators, and of course, our IT team who helped bring this all together seamlessly. So thank you all. We have time now for networking. So please, if there's someone you want to meet or a question you didn't get a chance to ask, now's the time. Thank you all very much.